Uncommon Women, a podcast that provides a platform for women of all walks of life to share their upbringings, life lessons learned, experiences, and journeys to come. Uncommon Women speaks on topics that can relate to all women. We share, we listen, we laugh, we cry, and we empower each other to be the best uncommon woman that they can be. Ultimately, we are cultivating a global movement of women supporting women. Women supporting entrepreneurship, relationships, self-love, and so much more. We inspire each other to make an impact on this world for the better. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Uncommon Women. Now, finally, grab a seat, get comfortable, and hear from your wonderful hosts, Shanira and Jenny Lee. Thank you, kings and queens, for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Shanira.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
And today we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to join us in just a moment. Michaela Johnson. She's going to teach us on how to throw away the towel and apologizing to others for being ourselves and becoming a better us. Before I get into today's topic, I do want to go into a bio about Michaela. And Michaela Renee Johnson is a best-selling author, a licensed psychotherapist, and host of the top iTunes podcast, Be You, Find Happiness, which encourages people to speak their truth with grace and live a courageous life of authenticity. Her initiative, Be You, Find Happy, holds workshops and conversations on finding happiness in spite of life's setbacks and has landed her speaking opportunities across the nation. So thank you, Michaela, for tuning in and being a part of Uncommon Women today. We definitely appreciate you. Before we get into the goods of you teaching us today, can you tell us a little bit about your life and how was it growing up?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a big topic, but I'll give it my best. So I grew up just to kind of summarize it quickly, I grew up in a 27-foot fifth wheel with no running water, no electricity, in the rural Sierra Nevadas, and created a life that was very expansive in material things, and then found myself right back at ground zero and kind of started to realize that, while I had tried to run away from my upbringing, the way that my parents had done things was actually the greatest way to do things, which is to live simply, to be present in the moment, and to find appreciation in the simple things, gratitude for what you do have instead of focusing on what you don't have and what you want to create. So, all in all, I created a life where I'm a psychotherapist, a best-selling author. I have a podcast that's a top iTunes podcast. All these things are really just labels. The one that probably brings me the most happiness is mom. So, I could kind of go down the list of these, but, I think we get ourselves stuck up in defining by these things rather than living from an internal space of what's bringing me happiness in this moment and what do I need to create to generate the life that I want, which for me is one that includes a lot of peace and calm and laughter. So.
I agree. I totally love peace. I would probably have peace most of the time, but again, I'm a mom too, so I understand all about that.
Well, some people love drama. They just like.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
That's not my jam. Maybe it was when I was in my 20s. It's not my jam now.
I agree.
Yeah, so do I. Well, my kids are grown, so I get a lot of peace around me. So obviously I was a single mom, but my kids are older now. But I enjoy my peace, and even as an adult not having kids, I like to enjoy my peace. Peace is, to me, very important to have.
Absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit on tips on how we can use them and, stop apologizing for actually being ourselves?
I think it's not uncommon to live in a way where we're trying to satisfy someone else's needs. We're trying to create a comfortable living space with the relationships that are in our life. And by doing so, we kind of lose sight of what's important to us and what we need. And so we often in that space apologize without even knowing why. Like I have a lot of clients that will just say, someone will ask, can you pick up my kid on Friday? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, but... And it's like when we're I'm sorry butting for everything in our life, we're going to find ourselves resentful. We're going to find ourselves stressed out. We're going to find ourselves confused. It's much better to be able to say something to the effect of, I can't do such and such. Thank you for understanding. But we're quick to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like we're just like this super apologizing nation. And what that's really done is it's gotten us into a situation where we don't even really know what we're apologizing for anymore. Really, unless you like run into somebody with your grocery cart, there's like very few times that you probably need to be apologizing. You know what I mean? And it's just habitual. It just comes out of our mouth. So how this kind of ties into living our true intention is, are you really sorry for the thing or things that you've done that maybe you needed to do for your human survival? Like I literally cannot pick up your kid because I am so stressed out this week that I will have a heart attack. So are you really sorry for that? Or is that just you setting a boundary? You know what I mean? So I think that we get ourselves into situations when we're constantly apologizing for what our inner truth is, for what our gut tells us to be right.
And that brings another question. So do you believe that people that always say I'm sorry before they actually, give a reason on why they can't do something, if they do something mistakenly, are they really sorry, or is it just something that they're used to saying?
So here's what I really think about this. I think that apologies are noise. I know this is very like kind of advanced or alternative thinking, but I really find that, I would much rather have somebody come to me that has done something that's hurt my feelings or something like that, and talk with me about the intention behind it and the why, and how can we move forward from this experience, than to just say, I'm so sorry. It's like, so you're going to go be a total B and like throw me under the bus and treat me this way. And then you're just going to, I'm so sorry that I did that. It's like, no, that's not really like enhancing our relationship. It certainly isn't necessarily an empty apology. You probably are sorry on some level, but it doesn't help our situation progress. Right. So I would much rather have a conversation about like, hey, the reason that I did this is because I was in a situation where I didn't feel like there was many outs, and it was easier for me to use your name, and I apologize for doing that. I'll try to do that not in the future, blah, blah, blah. Like that is much more of an in-depth, healthy conversation in a way where apology can be productive. But other than that, I'm sorry is really noise on the spectrum.
So like the why, get straight to the why.
Yeah, well, let me understand, why this happened, or what was happening for you that you got drunk and called me a bad name. What was going on for you? Like we talk about excusable behavior, inexcusable behavior. At the end of the day, everybody's behavior is excusable. It's just, what are your boundaries and limits?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Indeed. How can we acknowledge that we're just apologizing sometimes for no reason?
It takes practice. So when I work with my clients on this, I'll say you have to like cognitively practice when it does not matter. Okay. So for example, you have to practice with the friend who says, oh, can you come to Taco Tuesday? And they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, but you have to practice there. You know what I mean? And say, oh, actually, I need some self-care time. Thanks for understanding. You have to practice it when it doesn't matter. So that when it's like some big, deep conversation with your mother-in-law, then it's not, it's a little bit easier to get into that space of, no, I am actually entitled to my thoughts and feelings. So long as I speak them with grace, I'm doing you a favor and I'm doing me a favor. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay.
So when do you actually hold accountability and knowing, when you had enough and you're not feeling like you're not feeling bad for apologizing or being sorry on it?
Okay, so this is kind of like this twofold conversation. So if you have an expectation of someone else feeling sorry for something that they've done to you, you're setting yourself up for a tremendous amount of disappointment, because maybe that person doesn't even see it as a thing. Now, if it's from your perspective, like, how do I know if I owe somebody apology? If you're thinking, like, if you have that thought, you probably need to circle back with somebody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, if you say something spews out of your mouth, or an action comes out of your body and you go, that doesn't feel good in my belly, unless you're a sociopath, right? That's totally disconnected from, empathetic, compassionate reasoning. Then if you have that feeling in your belly, you probably owe someone something. But don't owe someone something for them. Owe someone something for you. So, like, this isn't sitting right with me. And so I need to continue this conversation in my own self to find out why that I treated this person this way, and then make a decision on how to approach that person. Because a lot of times we get into situations where we could do a lot more harm if we're not careful on how we come back to somebody that we've hurt.
Okay.
So initially, you need to find out why you don't feel good about something. It always has to come from that space of what is the disconnect within my own body on this? And why do I feel uncomfortable or sad or guilty, and go from there. And I say that because a lot of times, codependents can get into really yucky situations apologizing to people who are very, very hurtful to them and disrespecting of their boundaries, because they don't connect with themselves first. They go right to that I'm so sorry place, I screwed up. So it is important that we understand why we feel that way and then make a decision on how to proceed.
Okay. Can you give us tips on how we can be us and to stop apologizing?
I think the biggest thing is just do some self-work, know what you want, and then, unless you're doing something super ungraceful or something super disrespectful, don't be afraid to go after life. I think a lot of 2020 has taught us that, like, there's thoughts and beliefs that do not align with who we are as a person. Yeah. And can we educate ourselves? Can we do our research? Can we learn more? Yes, we always should be doing that. But at the end of the day, if there's something that just does not align with who you are as a person, don't engage. It doesn't mean that you may not someday, right? Like I always say, I reserve the right to change my mind when presented with new information. But in this moment, I'm not apologizing for this because I wouldn't even know why I'm apologizing. Right. I don't understand myself in this situation or what I'm feeling to even give you that. So I'm going to step back. I'm going to explore a little bit inside, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, I like that. Let's shift it a little bit. Can we speak on, or could you educate ways on how we can bounce back from setbacks in our life, not even just apologizing, but, setbacks in our life internally of knowing our identity?
So here's the deal. This is where people get super sideways. They think like, oh, happiness is this thing, and then once I get it, I have it forever. And the reality is, no, there's always something or someone that's challenging that, right? That's cut you off and you're having the greatest freaking day. And then you like slam on the brakes and now you're pissed, So this is one of those things where we get in this like mind space of like, I'm going to be happy forever. That's not a thing. Like you're going to be pissed some days. That's a thing, right? So it's all about resetting in that moment and how quickly you do that. Like how quickly can you tap into your resiliency and say like, there's something in this experience for me. I'm supposed to be here now. And it's also important to remember, and I recently attended a webinar with Matt Kahn, who's like a really cool spiritual healer. And, he was talking about how the universe is never giving us anything yucky, right? It's giving us something to enhance our existence, like our experience in this life. And so even if it's something we could say negative or painful versus something positive and happy or pleasant, there's something in this experience to be grateful for. And, it's really about balance. Like we wouldn't know happy if we never felt sad. Could you imagine? Mm-hmm. Like, remember that commercial? You might be too young. The commercial is like, the guy is like, the lotto is up to $1 million. Like super flat. Remember that guy?
I definitely probably too young for that.
It's literally like, he'd be like, it's like the whatever or whatever. It's up to $42 million. The lotto is up to $42 million. Like she's super freaking flat. Like that sucks, right? That's how we would all be in life. We would be like, this is really great. My new car is shiny. Like we would
the one commercial when they were like dry eye, red eye. Now I know that one.
Right.
Something like
you can kind of be like, wow, I'm super grateful for this sad moment because I can appreciate happy so much more by knowing sad.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but there's always this thing that I hear a lot of people talk about. They say happiness can be vague.
So I got the title of happiness expert at some point. So I don't know who this big person is. I mean, sure. If we're looking at it as something, it's not really tangible, right? Like we can't say if this or that, like in this way. But I can say like, I can describe things and moments and experiences and feelings that bring me happiness. I can certainly do that. Mm-hmm. I can say that when I'm sitting with my son reading a book in the evening time, I feel like I'm nailing it as a mom. I'm giving him quality time. I'm super present. I'm enhancing his life by reading to him. And that makes me happy. Like I could literally define all of these things. Or I could say, when it's a Sunday afternoon and I've put in a lot of hard work and I'm sitting among my garden and I've just shoveled like a yard's worth of dirt and I've got a cold drink and the sprinklers come on and it's a little misty, like I'm just happy. Like I'm in my Zen space, So I think the importance of what you're trying to say with the vagueness is happiness is vague if you want to let it be. Like take an experience and talk with yourself and say like, what are all these things in this moment that are contributing to what I'm happy about, right? Like what I'm saying, oh, I'm happy. Okay, well, why? Like, so as a therapist, this is something that I do a lot in my practice is people love to say, like, I'll say, what are you feeling right now? And they love to say like, I'm sad, and I'm like, okay, where do you feel sad? And they'll say, oh, and they'll think about it and they'll say, I kind of just feel it in my chest, or I feel it in my heart, or I feel like a tingling in my throat, or they can really describe it. And I say, okay, so describe sad, well, when I think about this and this and this, okay, so now we're working with this. I'm saying, all right, so what I'm hearing you say is, when you think about this, you feel a tingling sensation in your throat and you feel sad because you're not really speaking your truth to someone in your life, right? So now we can work with that. Now we can work with it. And it's the same thing for all the emotions, right? Like we can strip back the onion and find out like what we're really looking at.
Yeah.
I agree. One of the viewers, I totally agree with it. She says, happiness can fluctuate depending on your circumstances and joy is constant. So I like that.
Hi, Andrea. Yeah, so happiness definitely fluctuates, like rapidly too, like rapid cycling, like REM sleep. Like, you feel really like I could be at a concert super stoked and then have to wait in the beer line and I'm like pissed,
Right.
So I missed my favorite song or something, so it definitely can fluctuate for sure. And I do think that joy is something we can always find. I agree with Andrea. I mean, I think we can always find the joy in the moment.
Definitely.
I don't think she's wrong.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree.
Well, speaking of joy, where do you get your inspiration from? Besides being a mom, because we know you love being a mom.
That's the obvious go-to. It's like my son. Because he's amazing and says cool stuff all the time that is so inspiring. Like even when he's like, poor kid, he's the son of a psychotherapist. You know what I mean? So he's like real in tune with his emotions. Right.
I can imagine.
Earlier today, I felt slightly triggered.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me about it. At one point, it was really funny in the car. We both do a lot of thinking in the car. I don't know. And so I asked him something. He goes, you're really interrupting my happy factor right now because I'm kind of in my head about some things. All right, then. I'll just sit here. Yeah, it's constantly inspiring me for sure. But I find teachers in everything. Like my dog is a teacher. The weather is a teacher, I really can find teachers all around me in so many different ways. And they're not, and they're not always human, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think I can really draw inspiration from a lot of different places, but one of my most favorite places to get inspiration is reading. I love books. I read about, at least a book a week. And I really find a lot of inspiration in some of the more spiritual healers that I've followed too, like Carolyn Myss and Matt Kahn and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Deepak Chopra. So I think that, I can draw from those kind of elevated spaces, but I could literally find inspiration in my dog. My dog's sitting out there just staring off. And I'm like, yeah, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just sit and stare off like my dog, Like he's just happy right now. He's not thinking about anything other than what he is doing right now. Yeah. And maybe the chicken that he wants to chase, but whatever.
I like that concept. I like how that inspires you. Just even that, you guys even got me thinking like it could just sit there and just stare and just
yeah.
And just stare.
My dog's the same way.
I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that.
Or just enjoying the outside. Enjoying the outside.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are not comfortable just sitting. And I think that, as humans, we were never meant to travel 80 miles an hour. Otherwise, we would be called a cheetah, and yet we put ourselves in these tiny little like metal boxes with rubber wheels and go flying literally 70 miles an hour down the road. And it's like, imagine all of the crap that we're inputting at 70 miles an hour. Like humans, top speed, I'm not even sure, but I'm going to go with something probably like 36, maybe 40 miles an hour. Who knows? Like that's probably a super human. I don't even know. But definitely not 70, definitely not 75. Right. Are we evolving fast enough to take on? Sure, we're doing fine. But the bottom line is all that data input just to drive to Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Like, think about that. Think about all the data you take in just to go through a drive-through, right? Like, looking at this entire menu of food. Never were meant to take in this kind of constant data. So if you're not sitting and resting like the greatest resource that you have, you're really doing yourself a disservice, And I even think about like on the fasting standpoint, autophagy and intermittent fasting, like humans used to have very long gaps between eating. And for example, it takes 12 to 14 hours to digest a slice of pizza. If you eat a slice of pizza at 8 o'clock at night and eat breakfast at 9 o'clock the next morning, your stomach never stopped working. It never rested, right? So it's like, how do you heal? Like imagine going to a hot vinyasa flow yoga class every hour of every day, 24/7. It's no wonder we have so many stomach problems and all the different things we have going on. So we never rest it. We never give it a break. And the same thing with our brain. We never rest it. We never give it a break. And sleeping is not the same, right? Because recovery is happening in its own way, subconsciously when we're sleeping. But a cognitive conscious break. Like, I'm not taking in the ginormous Cheesecake Factory menu, right? Like, I am not taking in all of the different cars working and sitting all over the place like gnats on the freeway, right? Like, I'm going to consciously sit here and detox for a minute. I don't even know how we got on that conversation, but yeah, I could talk about that all day.
But that makes sense, and that may be one of the reasons why a lot of people have so much anxiety.
No doubt. Absolutely. Like, if we just look at the functioning of cortisol on the limbic system, and we tie in all the neurotransmitters, GABA, adrenaline, dopamine. Like, if you're not bringing yourself down to baseline and zeroing yourself out, you're just climbing the mountain of cortisol. You're just stacking it on top. You're never bringing it back down. It's no wonder we have stomach problems and autoimmune disorders and just all.
So true.
Yeah. I want to go back. I want to piggyback into some happy tips. Can you give us some happy tips to remind us how to be happy at home and away from people?
So my honest opinion is humans are not meant to be away from people. We are social to the nth. Alone time is one thing and important, but even Buddhist monks who spend a lot of alone time are together. We're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to be, segregated and living in solitary. There's a reason that is the utmost punishment in prison. You know what I mean? Because it's freaking torture. So my tip for being happy away from people is don't be away from people.
Okay.
Sadly, you need people. You just do. Imagine taking an emperor penguin and putting them on their own little ice island by themselves. That penguin is going to die quickly for lots of reasons. One, penguin can't survive without other penguins. That's how they operate and function.
Right.
For in the pack, right? So that they don't get eaten by a polar bear, as example. But also because they need the connection that comes from that. So they're going to die of a lonely, broken heart, right? So they're going to give up on life. So my tip for being happy away from people is don't be away from people. And we can look at this in many different species within the animal kingdom, right? Humans, we think we're so freaking special, but really monkeys open bananas better than we do. So true. So I think that it's important we not, and I don't mean that you need to, physical connection is incredibly important, but freaking call grandma. You know what I mean? Like, don't leave her alone. Don't do that. Don't do that to you. Don't do that. Happy to be at home. This is important. If you cannot create a space that feels safe, comforting, enjoyable, peaceful at home, then you're going to carry that into everything else in your life. So what I really like to do is physically create a space in your home that is like your Zen space. And what I also like to tell clients, and I actually lead this in a workshop, the workshop is about achieving a dream or a goal, but it's really important that you recognize your physical space is an extension of your brain. Okay. So if your physical space is cluttered, dirty, a mess, that's like exactly what's happening up here. So clean your space. And if you can't clean the whole space and you can't redecorate financially or whatever. I get it. Take a small little space. Maybe you only have a bedroom in an apartment that you share with somebody, and maybe there's only so much you could do. Take a little tiny corner and make it special. Make it whatever special looks like for you. I mean, I have a lot of these different spaces in my home, both indoors and outdoors, because I just like it. I really like being home. I mean, I'm a crazy adventurer. I've been to like 3 different countries. I love to travel. I've always on the go, but I also love being home, and home is like my safe, peaceful Zen oasis that I can ground and reconnect. And it is important that home, if not happy, at least peaceful, like at least where you have a safe spot that you can go and create some sense of peace and happiness. Yeah.
Or the tub. That's my like.
Yes.
Happiness.
The bathtub. I mean, I didn't have a bathtub for a while while I was pregnant. And I remember thinking like that felt very heavy, because it was a super important place to unwind. Yeah.
Yeah. Maya wanted just coming into my place because, I live alone and it's just peaceful, and I could just sit on my couch and just like unwind. Just like for those few minutes before I know I have to get back up to do other things that I need to get done. But it's just peaceful. I can go and cook. It's peaceful. I can lay on my bed. It's peaceful. So my apartment is my quiet place.
Safe space.
Yep.
So let's go into all the great information that you provided. Can you share with us what you do to help others? I know you're a counselor, but share your business and how we can support you.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the women listening, since this is a women-oriented, show, the book, the bestseller, Empowered, a Motivational Journal for Women, is available on Amazon. It's one of the greatest tools. I really poured myself into that project, and I'm really happy with it. And I think it's helping a lot of people tap into this, and creating this safe space at home, that's in there. It walks you right through how to do that. Lots of stuff on happiness, lots of inner child work, and playing, getting playful and creative. All of my books are available on my website, beyoufindhappy.com, BEYOU findhappy.com. And I do the workshops, and I also do the podcast, and I have the psychotherapy practice, and just so much fun stuff in the works.
Awesome.
We're excited. Is there anything that you wanted to express or share before we actually close out?
I just think it's important that I think a lot of times we can listen to stuff like this and be like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this. And my encouragement is to actually be still. Actually be still for a minute and just see how these things resonate with you. It's really easy to get caught up in like the self-help. I'm going to buy every journal and every book available. Like just be still, just like go sit with yourself for a minute and think about life, and don't think about life, think about the color of the leaves. And, this is another interesting thing that I would like to share, is that a lot of these things are constructs that people told us, right? So for example, I'm looking at this beautiful field right now, and there's a tree here, and these leaves are very bright green. But somebody told me that is bright green. I didn't like come out of the womb going, oh, bright green, this is bright green. Somebody told me that's bright green. So, what are people telling you in your life that you've created as a true narrative that maybe isn't true for you?
Right? Oh, that was good.
Yes, it was.
Every once in a while, there's a little gem.
that was a drop the mic, Jen. That was a good one.
Yeah, it
was. That was a Clubhouse moment, definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on. I loved all your input and for educating us. And there is one question we ask all our guest speakers. What makes you uncommon?
Well, besides being totally crazy nut job, maybe that makes it more common these days. I just don't live within the social constructs of what, who, where, why, how. I just live from this more like intuitive space of exploring and feeling, and I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to screw up and make amends. So I think that a lot of times people are like going through life thinking like, I have to do what society says. And I'm like, nah, I'm not a big fan of that. So I think that makes me pretty uncommon. Like, I'm not a rule breaker, but I'm not a rule follower either.
Okay.
So I'm not living with like reckless abandon, right? I'm not going to go jump out of an airplane without a parachute unless there's no other option at all. And even then, I don't know.
Still wouldn't do it.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah. I just love the way you think. It's just like it just comes out and you're just
very
like,
uncommon.
Yeah.
It's a great spirit, though. She's her. Michaela. I love it.
Thank you, Michaela.
Yeah, find me on Instagram too, at Michaela Renee J. And I post a lot of kind of unorthodox quotes and different ways of looking at life there too.
Awesome.
Okay.
Which actually ticks a lot of people off. But I'm like, cool, thanks for stopping in.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
Yeah, you are. Thank you, Michaela, again. I love your spirit. Everyone, come check out our clothes. If you have any topics or any potential speakers, or if you know any potential speakers, check out our website at www.uncommonwomen.net. And also we had our self-love seminar last Saturday. It was empowering. It was amazing with all these ladies. It is available. We have it. Recording is available. Sorry about that. Next week's episode. Oh no! Before I get there, also check out our YouTube channel, Uncommon Women Podcast. Like and subscribe and comment. Check it out. And next week's episode will be recorded on the 3rd of next month, June 3rd, obviously. She will be speaking on how to connect with your partner intimately. And then stay uncommon.
Bye.
Bye.